Feathers are a sign of high rank in Hawaii, which is at the northern end of Polynesia. Feathers covered the helmets for warriors. Warriors wore feathered garments in preparation for battle, like this feather cloak that we see here. And like other artwork, the tapa cloth, the Maori meeting house, this ahu'ula, this feathered cloak, is made by a combination of skilled craftsmanship and performance. And I really think we can discuss this cloak in three ways: as a prestige object, as an object imbued with mana and intimately woven into Hawaiian belief systems, and as a product of a collaborative artistic system. So let's think first in terms of the prestige object. It's constructed of a fiber network with honey creeper and honey eater feathers attached in conjunction with ritualistic chanting. Workers recite the genealogy of the royal recipient for whom this cloak was intended, and they use the feathers of over 90,000 birds. The circular cloak with red and yellow feathers is the typical compositional structure for these objects. Let's think about this then as an object imbued with mana. The cloaks were worn during ceremonial and combat situations. They also, the color red is associated with warfare as the color of blood, and the god Ku, Ku, who is one of the four major gods of war. And again, that chanting during the making imbues this cloak with mana, and it has a protective quality for the wearer, and the wearer's own individual mana and the mana of the cloak kind of heighten each other and build off of each other. As far as an artistic collaboration, it is a piece that requires cooperative effort, as so many of these artworks in this module do. This is not the work of a single person, but often this cloak like this could take years to construct. They are heirloom pieces that convey a public image of wealth and societal status. And this particular cloak is slightly different than the one that we see in the painting, but I really like this 19th century painting here to show us what this cloak would look like. But this particular cloak was one that was gifted to Captain Cook's second in command on his third voyage, and so we can see that this really is a prestige object. You have videos about Polynesian tattoo under the readings and resources for this module. And all what I want to say here is I think the video does a great job explaining the significance of the tattoos, both for Samoan identity and Polynesian identity around the world. And it is a link both to one's ancestors and the other world. The tattoos carry large quality of manas because they are artworks that are actually infused with the body. And I think that this is particularly fascinating for us because, of course, tattoos play a role in kind of pop culture as well, but we see them take on a completely different significance here in this context. All right. Rapa Nui, which means the navel of the world, or sometimes it's referred to as in its western name, Easter Island, is over 2,000 miles off the coast of South America. And of course, the most striking figures from Rapa Nui are these huge moai, these huge megalithic figures that are carved out of the volcanic rock of the island. They have this distinctive proportion of being 1/3 head and 2/3 body. So big emphasis on the body, big emphasis on the head, which is the part of the body that is considered to have the most mana. Their faces have these distinctive kind of elongated noses and ears, heavy eyebrow ridges, and the carving on the chest emphasizes the clavicle, the the collarbone. Their eyes would have been inlaid with shells, which are no longer in place. And some of the moai have top knots called pukao, which are made from a different stone, this more red stone, and you can see one of these top knots here. The map that I'm showing you shows the location of these different platforms of the ahu, the platforms where these moai figures are situated. And often the platforms are facing out to the sea. And so most of these figures have their backs to the island themselves. There's over 900 that survive. The largest are 70 feet tall, 70. And the best approximation from scientists, they believe that it would take 30 people 1 year to carve these. So there's all sorts of scholarly mysteries about how they were moved into place, exactly how they would carve out of this rock, how they would move it around. And there's some indication here of particular pathways that they used to get these giant figures into place. And you can still see the ruts on the island today. There's also these smaller figures that from Rapa Nui, and like the large moais, the moai kava kava, they have elongated earlobes, that pronounced kind of brow line, and carved prominent clavicles. And it's possible, these figures are quite small, it's possible that they may have been worn around the neck, perhaps wrapped in some of that tapa bark cloth when not in use. All right, let's move to Melanesia here, west of Polynesia. And it's this area that's kind of north and east of Australia. These islands, they include larger islands like New Guinea, that's divided up into West Papua and then Papua New Guinea. Small, tiny islands that make up the Solomon Islands or New Caledonia. There are almost 1,300 different languages spoken across Melanesia. And here we see people living in small-scale societies with different leadership systems and trade routes that linked these distant, isolated communities. As you can imagine, these cultures are expert seafarers. And we're going to start on New Guinea, the largest island in the Pacific here in the eastern half, in Papua New Guinea, and look at the Abalam culture. Oop. Okay. This is a karambo. This is a ceremonial house of the Abalam, who live in the foothills of mountains. And they have an elaborate cult surrounding the cultivation of yams. And this is a cult in which men participate as a way to gain status. The karambo is a ceremonial structure that is connected to that yam cult, and it's reserved for men. Objects for the yam cult and clan identity are stored here. There are initiation rites for boys that take place in this house as well. We can see that the structure itself has a thatched roof and is kind of this pyramidal shape with a large painted section here in the front. Every step of the building and creating process have ceremonies and accompanying rituals for it. And the only time women are allowed into the interior where some of these cult objects are placed is at the kind of housewarming party where everybody, regardless of their status, regardless of their gender, can go in, and then everybody leaves, the interior is cleansed, and it is only used for these particular ceremonies. And I think this really shows us the power of art and architecture to unite both the kind of physical realm and the realm of spirits, the celestial worlds. The Avalon believe these works of art held here, if they are properly consecrated, they can actually use these objects to communicate with the spirit world. All right. This is a Melagnon display from one of the eastern islands, an island nation of Papua New Guinea. And a Melagnon is a cycle of rituals that express many complex philosophical and religious ideas. The Melagnon is principally concerned with honoring the dead, but it's also a kind of act of affirming one's own clan family identity, and also is a ritual that's used in transmitting land rights. And sculptures are made for this Melagnon ritual to be used for single occasions and then destroyed. Here we see again an idea of kind of decommissioned sculptures that are now part of a museum collection that show us this array of carved wooden figures with attached shells, feathers, vegetable fibers that is now housed in a museum to kind of to give outsiders a sense of this ritual. These figures would be displayed outside of a building and kept secret until their unveiling. And once, and this is a one-time use, figures cannot be repurposed. And after they would be used in a Melagnon ritual, then they are typically destroyed, or with the rise of global tourism in the past kind of half century, they are often sold to Westerners and to outsiders outside of the community. All right, I think that although we don't have much left, I'm going to wrap things up here, and then we're going to come back and talk about our final territory, which is Micronesia. We're going to look at the navigation charts, that you also have a video to watch for this module, and then we're going to finish up by talking about the Royal Mortuary Complex at Nan Madol. So one more short video to go.